Hello friends, welcome to Python video tutorials. In previous session, we just started introduction to Python, like why Python and where we will use Python when it comes to data engineering and how to learn Python and where we will learn Python. So previous session I have explained how to create a Databricks community edition for learning purpose and how to use Databricks community edition. And here the cluster, that is our primary computation requirement, and whenever we are executing any code, that code will be executed on this cluster. So in computer section you need to create a new cluster, and only one cluster you can create a maximum in community edition because this is for learning purpose. So they are giving a flexibility and free of cost, so you can register here and you can use Databricks for learning Python, PySpark and other technologies. Then only one cluster you can create. So once cluster is available, you can start using this cluster and you can start practicing Python. So today what we are doing, so we are going to understand Python introduction to variables. So first we need to understand variables, then next we'll understand data types, different types of data types, how we will store the data, how we will process the data, how we will read, how we will write. These all are called data operations. So when it comes to as a data engineer, so primarily we are working on data. So storing data, processing data, managing data, and primarily analyzing maybe advanced analytics team will analyze the data, but still same Python we can use for analysis as well. So analysis as well, or analyzing data, storing purpose, processing purpose, managing purpose and analysis purpose. So when you're working in data project, primarily in big data project, we should know both two languages here, SQL and Python. So here we are going to understand Python, later we'll learn SQL. So when it comes to Python, the first thing we need to understand variables. Okay, so this is Jupyter Notebook. Completely you can understand similar features, but here we will call it as Databricks Notebook. A notebook can have a more than one cells, or you can say more than one command, and you can assign a cluster here. You can see cluster is available, and first time whenever you are using, just go with clear state and result. It will reset, so it will reassign the cluster to this notebook. If any previous state is there, it will clear and you can use this. So before starting Python, we should know few functions in Python. Few functions in Python commonly are frequently using functions. So one is print. So print primarily we can use for printing a text or printing information. So in our project, if you want to debug, if you want to print some information, we can use this function called print function. In a single quote or double quotes or triple quotes we can use, and we can print information. So this is a sample print function. Just so control enter, I'm going to execute, and at the down you can see this is output window. Okay, where it will store the data, it will store in memory. So which memory? In cluster memory. So that is called Spark cluster is available, and Python will store inside that cluster memory. Then print is one common function where we can print information. Primarily we can use for debugging purpose. So if you have 1,000 lines of code, every 100 line or every 50th line, if you want to verify the output, just you can use a print function. Okay, and when it comes to data engineering part, only debugging purpose and information purpose we will use a print function. Okay, but learning time you can play around. Then any language, any ETL tool, any programming language or any database language, common concept is variables. What is variable? Why variable? What is variable? Why variable? When we will go with the variable. So variable is a concept where we can store a single value and we can use that value wherever you want. You can use that value wherever you want. Okay, so it's like a storing and using. So storing and using, but it will accept only one value. It will accept one value. So I want to store my name or I want to store some other information. So where you will store, that is called variable. So declaring a variable, or you can say creating a variable. So how we will create a variable in Python? Just any name, but you need to remember Python is a case sensitive language. Name. So name equal to, whenever you are giving a strings, you should give in single quote or double quotes. This is Ravi. Same, I'm going to create another name called uppercase. This is Vicky. Okay, so here this is also name, this is also name, but when you look at Python, so Python, it will treat it totally different. When it comes to databases does not have a case sensitivity. They won't follow case sensitive. But when it comes to Python, so Python will follow case sensitive. This will treat different, this will treat different. Let's run this. Okay, now, so this information is stored here, this information is stored here. That is called variable. That is called variable. I'm going to create another command. Just copy that and execute that. So we are calling that. So it is giving that information. Whatever is stored inside that, it is giving that information. Then lowercase and uppercase. See here, totally different. Lowercase is different, uppercase is different. That is called case sensitive. Python is a case sensitive programming language. You should be careful when you're writing a program in Python. So people are coming from database background. So you can write your select queries and you can write in any case. So normally we will write select star from like this. Any case, init case, lowercase, uppercase. So any case you can write, database can understand that. But when it comes to Python, Python treats totally different. Python treats totally different. So just I'm using current date. So D uppercase, you see this. Okay, this is SQL. And if I write S uppercase and remaining lowercase. So whatever you write, it can understand that. So SQL is not a case sensitive language. Structured query is not a case sensitive language, but Python is a case sensitive language. So totally it will store separate, it will read separate. So that's why whenever you are creating variables follow the naming standards. Follow the naming standards. So that naming standards I will explain you. And when we will use variable, storing some value, and wherever you want, you can use that value. So remove this cell. Just I'm explaining about case sensitive. Now, if you create one variable with one case and if you are referring different case, for example, I'm searching for name. So this is not available. So it is saying that name is not found. That object is not found. That object is not found. So we created a name in lowercase, we created in uppercase, but we are searching in one in its initial cap. Okay. So that is called case sensitive programming language. So we should careful when we are writing Python. And any object, it may be variable, any method or like a function or any list, tuple, sets, whatever it is, whenever you are storing object in Python, it will treat completely case sensitive language. Then variable concept. So variable can store only one value and a data type also, dynamic type. Python is a dynamic type. What is dynamic type? I'm not declared any data type here. If you're talking about databases, so we need to define a data type. Then only it will store the value. But here, Python internally converts based on your data. That is called dynamic type. That is called dynamic type. So, if I create another variable, age 30. So, then print print this variable. So age. So print statement we can use directly. You can print a value here. So if I use this variables in a notebook, only one output it will display. Only one output. This commands will display only one output, that is last output. But both we are trying to execute, but last one only it is printing. If you are looking for more than one output, use print statement. That is called print function. Print of name and another one is print of name. So that's why, as I told you, print function we will use for debugging purpose. Now it is displaying both, you see this. Okay, that's the nature of this notebook commands. Print means you can print multiple outputs. If you're not using a print, only one, the last output it will display. You see this, the last one. So if I'm using after this age, after that another variable called name, only the last output you can see this. So that, remember that. Then age 30. So dynamically it will allocate data type. I want to know data type of this. So that is called another function. As I told you, these all are important functions which will help you to understand Python. That is called type. So type is another function where it will give you type of this. So it is integer type. We gave 30, it is created integer type. If I give in single quotes, then it will create string type. That is called dynamic type. So Python is a programming language, case sensitive programming language. You don't need to compile, no compilation, and dynamic type. These are our differences when we compare with other languages. Okay, dynamic type, based on your data it will convert and it will create data type. That is called dynamic type. Then whenever you are creating any single quote or double quote, it will treat as string. It will treat as string. Then if I give any float value, dynamically it will create float data type. Then Python is having another one called data type, called Boolean data type. True and false it will treat as bool data type. True and false. Remember, true and false, it is initial cap. Okay, if I give a small case, it won't consider that is Boolean value. So Boolean value in Python, you need to remember that true and false. True uppercase, T uppercase, initial cap, here also initial cap. That is called Boolean value in Python. So whenever I'm creating a variable var true, then it will treat as a Boolean value. Then if you type of this object is Boolean type. So that is called variable. So variable, you can assign any value, based on that value it will create data type. That is called dynamic data type. Then so single quote or double quote it will treat as a string. Single quote, double quote, it will treat as a string. If you want to comment, you can use hash for single line comment. So multiple line comments, triple quotes. So triple quotes also you can use for multi-line comment. So when you are using multi-line comment, it will treat as just a string. Okay, it will just treat as a string. Then so now we understand the print function, type function. So print for printing the output, primarily debugging purpose we will be using. Type, primarily verifying type of that. Is that function or variable or whatever it is, it will give you the type. Then help. So help is, it will give you more information about that. So this is a variable, right? So if I use help and supporting information about that, okay, so it is giving help for more. So string is also one of the class in Python. Integer also one of the class in Python. Like this, it is giving information. So primarily when we are using a classes, when we are creating the collections, that time this help will help on that supporting functions, supporting more low level information, that is called help function. So if I create any Python list, so just I'm creating one list, then if I use a help, it will give complete information about this list, supporting functions, and with examples. You can see supporting functions with examples, complete information it will give you. So that is called help function, will help a lot in Python while doing a Python programming. Then there is another function called dir. It will give you list of available or supporting methods for this, that is called functions, or you can say list of supporting methods inside that it will give you. Help will give you more information. Directory will give you only methods, or you can say functions. Methods are functions supporting for this list. So these all are commonly or frequently helping functions in Python. Help, type, print, dir. Then this is about basic functions to understand, to use Python. Then when it comes to variables and identifiers, so most of the people will have a confusion on this. What is variable? What is identifier? Identifier, my name is Ravi. So my identification is my name. Like this. This is a Dell laptop. So this identification is particular object name. We will call it as identifier. How we will identify that? Based on that name. Based on that name. So if I create a table, so table name is identifier. If I create a database name is identifier. If I create one project name is identifier. Like this, in Python, whatever you create object, it may be function, it may be class, it may be tuple, list, variable, that we will call it as identifier. Variable also is an identifier. Variable is also identifier because variable will have a name. So I created one variable called name or maybe age. So that variable identifier is that name. So variable is different, identifier is different. Identifier is just name of particular object. Okay. So like variables, list, tuples, sets, dictionaries, classes, modules, functions, or any object, whatever object in Python, we are going to identify that with a name that is called identifier. Variable only we can use and we can store a single value. Let's understand now. I'm going to create a few variables here. All are, see here, double quotes, single quotes, direct integer. So mean these all are variables. So variable can store only one value at a time. So it cannot store more than one value. So it is storing Ravi is a one value. If I add another value, Ram, then print, then what will happen? It will overwrite that. This is same concept in any language, any databases, any applications. Variable concept is can store one value. If you are trying to add another value, it will overwrite. So that's the primary concept of variable. The name itself is there, variable. So it can change if you are adding another value, so overwriting. So if we have a requirement to store more than one value, that is called collections. So Python also supports collections where you can go with more than one value, that we will call it as a collections or arrays or data structures. So different names are available. So this is about introduction to variable. Introduction to variable. Then when we will use a variable, how to create a variable and any naming standards for this variables. So depending on project, so every project will have their own naming standards. But when it comes to case sensitive, because it's a case sensitive language, right? Be careful, most of the variables we will go with lowercase. So most of the variable names will go with lowercase like this. Then when we will use uppercase. So uppercase means whenever you are using some variables in globally, okay, in your project normally username, password, path, those type of variables we will use entire project. okay, or entire particular module level, that time we will go with global, like uppercase variable name. So when we will use uppercase variable names, path. Path means particular location. When you are giving particular path in data engineering, source to target, if you want to move the data, you need a source path, a target path. Same way, username, passwords, like this. To identify, these all are global, you should not change values in between that. So for that requirement, just to identify, okay boss, I'm created these variables to entire project, don't touch this, only use this, okay, only use this. That is called variable. Normally we will use in lower cases, but when we will go with uppercase means only for common uses, primarily username, passwords. Normally password we won't store, like port number, host name, path, these all are to identify, we will store uppercase. Okay, location, particular location, so temp, customer, so like this, particular path, okay. So this type of requirements will go with uppercase. And variables, sometimes we'll create a more than one word. So more than one word means always we'll go with first starting with lowercase and second word onwards initial cap, okay. That is location name, or you can say customer name. So if you have a more than one word, you can use underscore also, you can use, but better to start with or end with v, so then you can understand that is a variable. Start with v or ends with v, it is the best way to manage. So programming languages is different, we are into data engineering, so data engineering means different objects we will be using, pipelines, data sets, link services, like this, every object. So we will have a more objects. So only programming language, they will be using only Python. For us, we'll be using Python, we'll be using SQL, we'll be using PySpark. There are many tools and languages are integrated, right? So that's why don't think that programming language naming standards is different. Data engineering side, we will follow different naming standards. Okay. So any variable start with v is the best identification, or ends with v. So maximum, this way we can create a variable. Then memory allocation for integers. So Python is having a best advantage for integers. When you are creating integer, it use the same memory. How it will use the same memory? Let's identify. So Python is having another function called id. It will give you your memory pool location. That is called memory storage location, id. So I'm going to create a two variables here, a equal to 100, b equal to 5. So when you use id, id of a, it will give you your memory location of that id, object id. So that is a is a variable, that location id. Then I'm going to create another two variables, c equal to 100, d equal to 5. Different variables but same values. But if you look at this, same IDs, you see, because minus 5 to 256 integer values, it will reuse the same memory. It will reuse the same memory. It won't allocate a new memory for that. So that is called memory allocation in Python. For integers, primarily integers, it will reuse that from minus 1 to 256. So if I have a 555 here, okay, 555, let's verify that. So here you can see different ID. Then if I go with the 555 again here, see different ID. So only minus 5 to 256, it will reuse the existing memory. Whenever you are doing for calculation purpose, primarily integers, so it will help you a lot. So if you have more variables, that memory allocation will be reused. Memory allocation will be reused. So that is called Python memory allocation for integers, especially integers. It will reuse that from minus 5 to 256. This is another advantage from Python. So internally memory, everything, automatic memory management will be there from Python. That is a major advantage from Python. And for integers, it will reuse that. Okay. Then print function, just now we covered. And when you're talking about variables, as I told you, programming languages, they will follow different naming standards, and data engineering side, we will follow different naming standards. Why? Because so programming language, if you are using Python for server level process, only one language will be using, but we are using different tools, different languages like Python, SQL, PySpark, then again shell script, and again if you are coming using ADF, so ADF also will have a different objects, different parameters. So combining all this, if you're not following naming standards, you will get confused. Then you don't know which one is this. Okay, that's why variables for Python, normally local variables will start with V, global variables will start with GV. So that is the best way to identify and store and manage variables in Python. But there is no like restrictions on that you should use only this naming standards, because it's an open source, you can follow, and every project will have own naming standards. Okay. Then when it comes to casting, so casting means anyway it is dynamic data type, so dynamically it is creating data type. So anything, whenever you are creating a variable, and that variables, if you want to print in print statement, so normally what we will do, printing some text, you can use a single quote or a double quote, so directly it will print that information. So if I have some variable, so variable some value, this is variable, so I want to print this variable in this inside this print statement. Okay, how to call variables inside this print statement? So use a comma, then use your variable, then it will print that. That is called concatenating. So till that this information, then comma, we added this. So there is another option called plus. So plus is a concatenation option we can use. Both, it will work for both addition plus concatenation. In Python, plus works both for concatenation, for addition also we can use same. Then, but when you look at this, it is padding end of this. It is padding end of this. I want to add in between this string. I want to add this variable in between this string. Just like whenever you are debugging, if you want to use some information in between the string, then how we will use variables. For example, here you can see my name is, okay, and the name, whatever here I will give a exact name. Then the type means object type. So it is, we are giving in double quotes, it will create a string type. It will give string type. So whenever you use a type in print statement, it will display in class as well. Okay. So that's the difference. You can identify that whenever you use a print statement inside that type. So this is a value of this variable and type of this variable. But if you want to print in between that, okay, just write another command, name Ravi is 35. Just example. So I'm going to print this too. Print this, or you can say my name is, just I'm giving a colon, and my age is, then I'm giving a colon. So comma. So comma, I'm going to use this variable. Okay. So, but it is printing end of this. It is printing end of this. It is not in a proper format. It is not in a proper format. So that is called how we will format a string. How we will format a string. So Python also supports formatting your string, that with the help of two functions. One is fstring, another one is format function. So that also we will see that. So before that, we'll understand the variables differences. Understand the variables. We'll understand the variables, and whenever you are doing a calculations on this variables, and it depends on data type. Again, it depends on data type. So what I will do, I will create a num1 equal to 55, num2 equal to 55, or you can say 11. So print num1 plus num2. So I'm printing this. So both are integers. I'm doing addition. It's working fine. For example, by mistake, I given this in single quote. So what will happen? First one is integer. Second one, it will create dynamic data type because it's a dynamic nature. You are giving in single quotes, it will treat as string. So you cannot concatenate or you cannot do addition different data types. That is the same behavior in any database, any application. Only similar or same data type only you can do the operation like concatenation or addition, whatever it is. So if I want to convert this data, default it's treating as a string. No, I want that integer. So that is called typecasting. So you can use int of that. So int of that, it will convert into integer. Now you can see 55 plus 11, it is converting string to integer, and I will create another variable a equal to int of num2, then a. You see 11. So you can verify the type of this. So integer. So we can convert one data type to another data type by, because it is a dynamic data type. Whenever you are giving a single quote or a double quote, it default it's treated as string. Then I want to convert this one into string. So whatever num1 is there, I want to convert into string. So integer you can convert into string, and you can verify the type of that. It is a string. So what I'll do, str means converting number into string. Instead of converting this number, I'm going to convert. So this anyway string and this is integer. I'm going to convert this num1 into string. Okay, now both are string. Both are string. I'm going to use plus. So plus means for string it will treat as concatenation. For string it will treat as concatenation. So remember that. So plus we can use for multiple purposes. Addition plus concatenation. If it is a string, it will concatenate. If it is integer, it will do the addition. So remember this difference. Typecasting, converting one type to another type, then string and integer addition concatenation. So plus we can use for concatenation. So this is about variables creation. And if you want to assign a value with multiple variables at the same time, we can go with multi-assignment. Simple. This is just interview point of view. If you want to create multiple variables, but if you want to assign same value at a time, you can go with like this, multi-assignment. So every variable will have a same value. So now you see print a value is, then like this. I'm going to print all values. Okay, E also will create. B, C, D, E. So E is not declared, just now you see this. This is called multi-assignment. So multiple variables we can assign is same value at the same time. Okay. So creating variable, assigning a value, you can go with a single variable or multiple variables assignment. So that is supported by Python. Then next, when it comes to string, as I told you, anything in single quote or double quotes, Python treat as a string. Anything in single quote, double quote, treat as a string. Then escape character. So we can, if you add inside that, you see this. Again, I want to add a single quote on top of that. So then you can use backslash for to add a single quote, or inside double quotes if you want, or inside single quote if you want add, but double quotes directly it will allow you. See this, inside double quote, single quote it will allow, but when it comes to 3 or single quotes, so we need to use escape character. Then numbers, so numbers we can use all logical operators, and we can compare the values, or we can do addition, subtraction, multiplication, division. So everything we can apply on here. So everything we can apply on here. So the only difference we need to remember, a reminder. So reminders whenever you do division, and the reminder. So I will explain you that. Print of 4 by 2. You see this? It is giving a float value. Actually, we should get 2, but 2.0 it is giving. So 6 by 3 or 6 by 2, 3.0 it is giving. So only this scenario it will give you that. So if you are looking for integer instead of float, then go with double. So then it will give integer value instead of float value. So that's the difference, one difference you can identify. Then multiplication, square root, so everything we can apply same as any logical operators and calculations, everything we can apply in Python. But when it comes to data engineering, the more we will concentrate on PySpark and SQL. So individual examples I have given here. Classic division with looking only integer instead of float value. Then percentage operator returns a remainder of the division, and then multiple operators. So multiple, like multiplication, addition. Then multiple assignments, we already saw that. So again, the typecasting also we saw that, integer to string, string to integer, and later we will see remaining typecasting. Then deleting object and formatting a string. So deleting object, formatting string also is very important in Python. So whatever we are creating a variable, that will store in memory. So if you're not using that, so unnecessarily you are using the memory, right? So you can delete that. So that is called, so Python is having another object, or you can say function called del. So you can use what I'm going to create one variable called a, I'm printing that. If I'm not going to use, then you can delete that. So use del or delete. So once you delete, that is not available. You see, it is deleted from in memory. So it won't be available in for this session. So you can use del or, so delete is a function, Python function. Primarily we can use for deleting an object, so that is called del. So object is not available. So first we printed that, then we deleted, that's why it is not available. So that is deleting a object in Python. Not only variable, any object we can delete using del. Formatting string is very important. So if you want to print information in between your string, that is called format string. So two options are available, one with the f string, another one with the format function. So another one with the format function, one with f string. So we can use f strings and we can use format string. Both are available based on your flexibility, based on your requirement you can use. First understand f string. What is f string? How to use that? So f string means starts with f, then so the same here, what I will do, so I have three variables. Okay, normally data engineering means source, how many records is coming, how many records processed, how many records rejected, how many records deleted, updated, inserted. This is called editing purpose we will use. It will help you on that logging information. So that is debugging time or logging information is required. So for that purpose, in this text, I want to print this all variables. I want to print all these variables. So how we will use that? So one method is F string. So F string means start with F. String means start with literal string, that is prefixed with F, which contains expression inside uh, curly brackets, inside curly brackets. So if I go with a normal print statement, this is a printing end of this string. So I want to add in between that. For example, this count, target count, a rejected count, just okay. So I will give a source count is, then target count is, rejected count is. So I want to print like this. So what we can do, we can use F, starts with F. So F means format string. So format string, it is printing as it is. So inside that, wherever you want to use that, you can use curly brackets. So I want to print this variable here. I want to print this variable here. So this is called formatting your string. If I'm not using curly brackets, what will happen? It will treat as a text only. It won't treat as this variable. It will treat as text. Text means as it is, it will display. So how we will use variables in between your string? That is called format string. Now you see this, it is treating as text. Boss, this is not a text, this is a variable. So how print will know that? So that is called specifying in curly brackets. So specify in curly brackets, then it will treat as that is not a string, that is a variable. Or you can say any object, maybe collection. Sorry. So C count, correct. Target count, then reject. So these three are variables I can print in between that. Now you can see 40 is coming here and this 30 is coming here, 10 is coming here. This is called format string. Starts with F. So this entire thing you can create one variable, F string, just any name. Then print that. Both are same. Okay. So single quote or double quotes. So this is called formatting string. One option using F string. So another option is called, there is a function called format function. This is also similar but advanced than F string. So it is a little bit advanced than F string and you can play around this. So how we will use? Let's see another example. What is a format string? How to use that? So in print statement, we will use the normal single quote, and when ending with your string, we will use dot format. Remember that, dot format. Let's create one variable, name Raj. So print this is, then print that using format Raj, or you can say my name is Raj and I'm in Bangalore. So I want to print this where? Here. So use curly brackets there. So it will print there exactly. Sorry, this variable name. Okay, that variable name. Now you see this. Normally, if you want to print variables, we will use a comma, but I'm using a dot. So whenever you are using a format function, that is string dot format function. So that function inside its need input is argument, that is your variable. If you use that variable, then wherever you want to print, use curly brackets. So if I have two variables, age 35, then I can go with comma separated age, then So just I will change the string. My age is, then two curly brackets. So this is called format function. So format function, which we can go with whatever you are using that variables. So inside that curly brackets you can specify, and the default is position based. Default is position based means this is first one, left to right. Python treats always left to right. So first one will goes to first one, second one will goes to second one. No, I want to change the order. So my name should be here and A should be here. For example, if I give a different order here, first age I will give, next name I will give. So what will happen? Here you can see first age is coming here, then name is coming here, because default it will follow position based, left to right. This is first position, second position. First one will be here, second one will be here. No, I don't want to follow position. I'm confusing here. Okay, then you can follow index based. So Python will follow indexes. So indexes, Python starts with 0. First one is 0 index, then 1 index. So this is the first one is 0 index, right, where you want to print. So use that. This is 0. Then this is index 1. So use 1 here. So this is called index based reference. Index based reference. So Python stores everything in index based, starts with a positive 0 index. Okay, from left to right. Left to right, this is left to right, 0 and 1. So if you have another variable, then index 2, index 3, index 4, like this. That is called numbered indexes. One is empty. Empty is a position based. Another one is index based. Then third one is reference based. So I can create a reference variable here, a comma b. Then I can use that b and a. Sorry. So I can use that reference. So format string, which you can use in 3 ways. One is a position based, index based, reference based. So reference means which I can create one reference for this variable a and for this variable b. So that I can use here. So with this way, which we can format your string. Format your string. I gave all examples: position based, index based, reference based. Okay. And field conversions, there are different of conversions are available, and we'll understand data types, different types of data types in Python. We started only with the integer string, and we'll understand remaining data types. So these are different types of data types supported by Python. We will see in another video. The second one is Python data types. And format string, when you are doing a format string, based on your data type, we can format the string. So based on your data type, we can format the string. Let's verify that. So that is called field conversion. So while doing a format, so there again, depending on date type, you can use the different formats. So percentages for strings, percentages for strings. So when I'm printing this, so directly I can use percentages for, so here both are strings, so I can use percentages. Then I'm going to create a variables integer and float. So decimal value, or whenever you want to, here you can see S for string, D for decimal, F for float, C for character, B for binary, O for octa. So that is field conversion. So whenever you are doing a format string, you can use this, and if you want to display that, if you want to display or change the format of a particular string, we can use field conversion as well. So field conversion depends on this characters. So this characters percentage S for strings and D for decimals. So D for decimals means here you can see I declare as a float. Okay, but D for decimal, percentage D means it will consider decimal value. Okay, so here we are using D for decimal integers. Then if you're looking for float, I want to display this float. Okay, then use F. So now you can see it is this. Actually, this is in decimal value. I want to display in float. Instead of decimal, I'm going to use float. So now it is displaying float value, but anyway it is integer and it is adding 0, 0, 0. So this is called field conversion. So field conversion which we can use, and primarily front-end applications, if they want to display, they want to change the format of a string, so they can use that. So that is called field conversions, and different types are available. So this is about just introduction to variables, format string, f string, and format function. And indexes also is very important. We need to understand the indexes. Just I will give you overview on indexes. So here, Python indexes. So Python indexes means whenever you are storing some value, it will store index positions. So start with the 0, 0 index always start with the 0. Left to right, positive indexes. Left to right is positive indexes means 0 to n. Right to left, from back to front, that is right to left, minus 1 to n. And indexes max value always n minus 1. So index max value always n minus 1. For example, if you are storing 100, then the index max value is 99. If you are storing 1000, the index max value is 99. That is n minus 1. So look at this string. So I created one string name and entire name. So entire name means it will give entire string. So if you are looking for a particular position of that is called through indexes, you can retrieve this. So left to right, this is 0 index, 1, 2, 3, 4. The string always it will store like this. So if you want to retrieve individual value, we have to use square brackets, then index. So index 0 means you will get a R. 1 means you will get a because index starts with 0. Index 2 means you will get a V. If I use minus 1 right side, so right side means if you look at this, minus 1 means right side, right to left, minus 1 T, minus 2 I, like this. So this is called indexes in Python. So we will see more examples in collections, data structures. So there we will be using this indexes concept to retrieve the values. Positive indexes, always remember 0 to n, that is left to right. Negative indexes from right to left, minus 1 to n. So minus 1 means t, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4 from right to left. Left to right, 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay. So here maximum index. So here how many are there? 3, 4, 5. 5 means the maximum index is 4. 4 means t. So how we will know that? How many items are there inside? There is another function called len. So len will give you length of this 5 values. So 5 values, but index maximum index is 4. That's why I told you when it comes to indexes n minus 1. So how many are there? 5 are there, but index max value is 4 only. So that is n minus 1 because it starts from 0. It starts from 0. This is about Python indexes. And next video we'll start with different types of data types. So thank you for watching my videos. Thank you very much.